Hi, this is On-AIR, and I'm Klara Syrewicz. European far-right parties have received very effective support from Trump's MAGA movement, leading many of them to electoral success. But now US foreign policy has moved from rhetorical imperialism to a more practical approach that threatens European sovereignty. And these parties have found themselves in a bit of a conundrum. What are they going to do about it? That's what we'll be discussing today with my guest, the editor and author Magdalena Baran. Hello, welcome to On-AIR. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hello, it's great to be here.
You've been following European far-right parties closely, and it's a challenging time for them. Donald Trump has just threatened to take over Greenland or maybe forcibly buy it, and it's been part of the Kingdom of Denmark for 800 years. So how are these parties reacting to that?
When you take a closer look at the European parties, far-right and right parties, we have to have in mind that they are somehow closely connected to Trump or to his movements. So most of them are rather gentle in expressing their real attitude to his actions. So some parties would just keep this Trump's threats in the background of a deeper discussion about sovereignty and so on and so on. Just when you look at Marine Le Pen speaking about sovereignty, or Nigel Farage also speaking about the violation of international law, so on and so on. But on the other hand, we have Viktor Orbán, who is still, on one hand, he's flirting with both Putin and Trump at the same time. So his position is not that clear, but since we know his position in European Union in general, let's put him aside. But the most powerful voice, in fact, is Giorgia Meloni. And Giorgia Meloni, who is seen as the closest European politician to Trump, and we need to have in mind that she signed that document together with other European prime ministers. And in this document we can read that Greenland is a part of NATO first, and Antarctica is the most important part, one of the most important interests of Europe when it comes to defense. On the other hand, we had the situation with one of the journalists asking Giorgia Meloni what to do with Trump. So she said she treated that answer as ridiculous, in fact, and her answer was also ridiculous, because she said, so what, you would like us to close American military base, to stop the trade, or maybe to storm McDonald's. So it's like, okay, she plays with European Union, and I think that the rest of the far-right parties just look what the strongest would do. Yeah, we have also our far-right friends in Germany, but here I would say that they also rather observe. I think that they are rather careful because international order and transatlantic relations are important to geopolitical situation all over the world right now.
But it's interesting to see how these parties are doing these kinds of ideological gymnastics right now, because this situation has really revealed not only how they are not necessarily aligned with one another, but their internal contradictions, ideological contradictions. So, as you said, for parties that are very focused on self-reliance, national sovereignty, this power imbalance between them and the United States shows that they have to be internationalists now, that only very strongly integrated alliances can actually help us, all of us in Europe, survive. How are they handling that? Because it must be not very comfortable for them.
To be honest, internally I have no idea, but I can imagine it's really hard for many of them to deal with the situation, because some of those parties would be probably happy to follow Trumpism, because political direction that we call Trumpism gathered together the denial of part of the liberal values, of course nationalism, and a kind of a conservatism. The ideology built in each country on the base of Trumpism is probably tempting for the most of those parties. But since we have the situation then in which we're not sure if NATO will survive it, I think that this gymnastic, or I would even say it's a kind of complicated yoga right now for them, not to do anything against the alliance, because most of the citizens of Europe still believe in NATO, even if if it's, let's say, it's not as strong as it was, mainly because of US. On the other hand, they doesn't want to offend Trump. That's why we get answers like that one given by Meloni. I think that what we heard from Le Pen, from Farage, was particularly strong.
Yeah, strong. It surprised me. It was even in a way it was stronger than what some of the centrist governments
and the position of the European Union.
Following what you said, do you think that if they opposed these policies in a very outspoken way, do you think that would have consequences for them? Because they've been receiving a lot of help from the MAGA movement, but they're also part of the CPAC network, and they have benefited from all manner of help, of support, electoral backing. We know that. From Poland, for instance. There is also this algorithmic help in social media that they get, this funding. Do you think that this could be taken away if they opposed his policies?
I do not believe that they will ever openly oppose his policies, so we are not there yet. On the other hand, MAGA movement is not a monolith anymore. Some strong and influential MAGA politicians or activists already started to criticize Trump for both sides. Some would say, okay, he's not as radical as he should be. On the other hand, we heard politicians speaking, okay, he crossed the borders, and we are not sure if he will represent us anymore. It might be also a signal for a MAGA movement that his idea of making America great again doesn't work, because he promised to focus on internal policy, and in fact he doesn't. He focuses on a foreign policy. Same with the Republican Party right now, because these were 5 Republican congressmen who vote together with Democrats to stop Trump to block funding from Trump's activity, including Greenland.
So do you think that despite whatever happened, the ideological support will remain, and that will not affect how these parties coordinate among themselves as well here in Europe?
I never wanted to be a fortune teller, because when it comes to MAGA and ideology, no one can be sure anything. Same with Trump.
Yeah, it's very flexible, I think.
But definitely we can see that all those parties are very gentle and diplomatic. Even look at Karol Nawrocki. Of course, he couldn't try to criticize Trump openly.
Polish President Karol Nawrocki is actually very much using the Orbán playbook, which is to zigzag and avoid questions, saying that this matter should be discussed internally within NATO and so on. So it's sort of open to discussion. But do you think that for voters, this will have an effect on them in Europe? Because when you look at what happened last year in Canada, when Trump said that Canada should be the US's 51st state, he alienated many voters who would have otherwise supported Pierre Poilievre, a kind of MAGA-style, Trump-aligned populist. And here we are, they elected Mark Carney. Do you think this situation might affect some of the elections we're going to be seeing this year in Europe? I'm thinking particularly about Hungary, obviously, because that's a big election.
Yeah, as a Libre, I would be happy to say I hope so. But the situation in Hungary is slightly different because political moves against Viktor Orbán, Peter Magyar party, so Tisza, is ready to confront Orbán. I think that the problem in this case will be the Hungarian diaspora, so Hungarians living abroad, because they would probably vote for Orbán. But in Hungary in general, we can see some moves. Just imagine that we're organizing a conference, and for years my colleagues from Central European University would be forbidden to take part in a seminar at the law department in Hungary. And right now, one of my colleagues was invited to be a keynote speaker, and the conference will be about re-establishing the freedom of speech.
I thought that your colleague received the political asylum, so maybe that's why he was invited.
Yeah, really, some time ago, a year, 2 years ago, they would be really frightened to invite such a person. So right now they would also tell you, yeah, there is a hope in us.
So the decisions were more like self-censorship and not politically orchestrated. Well, that's a glimmer of hope, in fact, yeah. And how did the Polish conservative and far-right parties react to Trump's policies?
Well, we already spoke about Karol Nawrocki and his reaction. Okay, in Konfederacja party, we heard mainly voices about like the situation in Greenland is a part of a broader discussion about sovereignty and about international law. So also here the position is like, okay, let's see, let's observe the situation. There were just few, but rather not so well-known politicians that would speak or put on X or other social media their private opinions, much closer to Trump or otherwise.
Otherwise, so I mean, aligned with what? With Denmark?
Some, yeah. I think I read one or two, but they disappear pretty fast. And Law and Justice, well, to be honest, I haven't observed much Law and Justice these days, especially in the case of Greenland. But after how they behave in the case of Venezuela, so in general, how they treat Trump's policy. Well, with Venezuela, they were happy. They treat the situation with Venezuela as a, political gold, because they use even what we could see in social media. So the picture of Maduro, but in the picture, instead of Maduro, we saw Donald Tusk. So saying that, okay, and some of the prominent politicians said even that, yeah, the Tusk will be the next. So it was like So I think that in the case of Greenland, they are not that open to speak, because it's a part of NATO. And I think that even Law and Justice believe in NATO as an alliance, and they were pushing Polish government to achieve, even Andrzej Duda, to achieve that 5% of GDP, to be sure that NATO will protect us. So if we believe in NATO, here I think even Law and Justice might be really careful.
In any case, the situation for them is not very comfortable. There's a lot of ideological splits.
Yeah, definitely.
But it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching us today. We'll be here for you next weekend. See you soon.